While I really don't understand why there is a need for Doctor-Lite episodes, considering that a showrunner typically knows the schedule of an actor before they start production on a season, and usually there's still time to adjust. I mean, we've had a whole year between the filming and release of these episodes. I get that they happen, and quite normally when they do, something interesting happens. Turn Left and Blink are brilliant Doctor-Lite episodes that feel like a nice break or interesting way of looking at things when the Doctor is not around. Love and Monsters is referenced a lot here because at this point it's now infamous for how bad the Absorbaloff is, but for all of its faults, I still found the little group of Doctor fans to be fun and really enjoyed the relationship between Elton and Jackie. And last year gave us two technically Doctor-Lite episodes in 73 Yards, which is my favorite episode in Ncudi's run to date, with apologies to the well, along with Dot and Bubble, which had enjoyable moments as well. So love them or hate them, Doctor-Lite episodes always give us something to talk about. On New Year's Eve, just as the clock strikes midnight, Belinda and the Doctor land on Earth, not in the same clothes they had on in the well, so the executives at Big Finish fish out their in-between story episode ideas from the trash and rejoice. And the Doctor brings out the doohickey for another reading. It tells him the same thing I just told you, except they don't know the year. Some idiot kid named Conrad is poking around in the alleyway, so he helps them figure out it's 2007 and snatches the 50-cent piece the Doctor offers him that he just picked up off the ground. The little shit runs off, annoys his mom, and gets smacked in the head for his efforts. Conrad grows up to be a podcaster that has been following the Doctor and rumors of him and the TARDIS since he was a kid. I guess he's popular enough on this Doctor Who podcast to have an actual recording studio and a full office building, rather than a microphone in the back room with a hand-me-down ripped-up couch and a blue mic that he got off Amazon that he has to lift pizza boxes off of when he's ready to use it. Anyway, he gets Ruby Sunday to be on his podcast. Conrad recounts to her the time that he saw the TARDIS again last year in another alleyway. He followed a growl into what appears to be a mall where they drape plastic on mannequins when they're not open and gets spooged on by the monster as he runs past him. He hears the thing up top of an escalator when the Doctor just uses the sonic and traps it. Conrad hides while the Doctor and Ruby talk about whether or not the monster peed, puked, or jizzed on Ruby. The Doctor says it's vomit, but then calls it pheromone, so, jizz, that marks a person as prey. But he also went to potions class, and Professor Snape gave him the antidote that Ruby drinks. The monster was apparently called the Shreek, but spelled with two E's because on that planet they don't have the I before E rule. He watches them and gets a stalker picture, and Ruby almost notices, but he hides so she doesn't see him. Conrad posts his picture of Ruby on social media, and that's how they found her to get her on the pod. Ruby waxes poetic about her life, and now she has more family than she knows what to do with, including mentioning her father and glossing over that whole thing, which is weird considering how much emphasis was put on who her mom was. I guess since he was a normal dude that Sutek didn't care about, neither should we. We get a quick montage of people listening to the podcast, including a dude that works at UNIT, which will be important later. They talk about the night that he saw her. Conrad spills some coffee because he gets excited, and then he prods her on UNIT and the Doctor. Ultimately, she doesn't really say much at all, and after the podcast, he fumbles about and asks her out. She accepts, shows him the video of the Shreek coming back that I guess UNIT captured, and gives him the antidote she still has from the last time and tells him to drink it. She goes all ghost story about how it hunts its prey, but the important thing here is that it messes with electricity, and he should notice that before it attacks. Conrad still has the coin that the Doctor gave him, which is kind of weird considering what we find out about him, but maybe he needs to hold the coin close to his chest to fuel his anger, or he had it specially made for his big deception. Anyway, they keep flirting and decide to go to dinner. Cherry and Carla do some social media stalking on Conrad, and the two lovebirds kiss. Before that, ominously, the lights flicker on this car, but nothing happens. Time passes, Ruby and Conrad are going to some English village with his friends, And Cherry is the only one to offer a bit of warning, but everyone just laughs at her because she just watched The Wicker Man.
Oh, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah!
Proving once again, fucking always listen to Cherry. Conrad and Ruby confirm that they are exclusive, and the electricity warbles again. The couple meet his friends for drinks, unfortunately not at the same pub from 73 yards, which definitely would have been fully in on this Conrad prank. The lights flicker some more, so Ruby interrupts office sex time between Kate and her boy hunk for her to check on it. I'm not kink shaming, everyone can do their thing, but between the bird revelation and her office kinks, we're finding out a lot about Kate. Although, they have a lot of alien tech there, so who knows what kind of toys they have in the Black Archive. Also, Mel is out checking out the spinoff. Kate gets all motherly with Ruby, thinking she has PTSD, dismissing the issues that Ruby is talking about because they have the Shreek in custody. In fact, Kate goes to double check and yep, he's still there. Ruby goes back and the lights start fucking around again. Someone screams from outside. Some old bitch comes talking in about the devil being outside, and Ruby sees two of these Shreeks out the window. Conrad comes back, admitting he didn't take the antidote, so Ruby calls unit and they get ready to leave. Jamie is back. I guess the brilliant Asteroid Boy exchange program is over and Morris went home, and she makes sure to bring Jordan the analyst while Ruby takes charge. She locks them all up in the pub while she goes outside with a fire poker. More lights flicker and Conrad shows up, disobeying Ruby's orders for him to stay there, since he's the fucking reason this whole thing is happening. He convinces her to stay by showing the coin around his neck, and they find Conrad's buddy's clothes. The Shreek shows up, but so does Unit. They rush in, ready to fuck shit up, but the Shreeks take off their masks, and it's Conrad's buddies. Turns out, Conrad and his friends have been setting up a unit to look dumb, I guess, because Conrad's part of the think tank, the same group that made the robot from Robot, and are now live streaming the prank to prove that Unit just lies about monsters and takes the public's tax money and spy on the public. It gets picked up by the media and the public sentiment starts to turn on Unit. Conrad goes on a PR tour, doxes all of the employees of Unit, and Parliament starts questioning Unit's funding. Jamie tells us all the lies Conrad has told Ruby about himself, which is information that probably would have been useful when she went on the podcast to begin with, when Kate storms in because they're transferring the Shreek somewhere else due to the government looking into Unit's dealings. They worry a dictator will get hold of their technology. FYI, Kate, this is why the doctor told you not to do this shit years ago. And Jordan, the analyst, locks some doors, unlocks some others, and lets Conrad in after tasing a dude. Unit figures out that Jordan Lang is the inside man, but Conrad killed him for being a baby about wanting a gun while committing a terrorist act. Kate's sex slave, that for sure won't have HR freaking the fuck out when they find out about that relationship, tells her that they need to seal off the control room. But Kate wants to fight, so she lets him go ahead and come on up, completely and totally disregarding any military or covert organization's protocol. What's your plan here, Kate? 'Cause in 90% of the outcomes that my mind can conjure up, you're going to kill Conrad. Conrad makes it to the control room, through the elevator that they knew he was on, and somehow Ibrahim doesn't just put a bullet in his brain pan the second that he steps off with a stolen Unit weapon, and is ordered not to by Kate. Conrad agrees with this because he's live streaming. He argues with Ruby, points a gun at her, and Kate takes over the conversation. See, Conrad wants Unit to admit to the lies on camera and show them the alien costumes and calls the Brigadier a coward. Well, we all know that's a step too far for Kate, so she loses her ever-loving and lets the Shreek out to either scare or kill Conrad. She wants to know how committed he is to the lies that he tells. The Vlinks fucks off. Conrad starts shooting at the air instead of shooting someone at Unit and demanding that they call this thing off of him, and the Shreek enters the building. Conrad's gun jams. Government-issued guns, am I right? He proves that he isn't much of a fighter and starts pleading for his life. Kate cackles, fully bloodthirsty at this point. Conrad confesses and Ruby tases the Shreek.
Don't tase me, bro! Don't tase me! Ow! 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 Ow!
Conrad is safe, is just about to be an asshole again, and the Shreek bites his arm. Later, Ibrahim starts to state the obvious, but Kate doesn't feel like talking about it. The public is on Unit's side again, and Unit turns back into the love fest that it's known for. Conrad sits in jail, and oh look! The Doctor materializes around him. Interesting that he can do this, but couldn't do it for Belinda instead of chasing that rocket. Anyway, he gives a speech about how bad Conrad sucks, and Conrad asks if he's met Belinda Chandra yet, thus answering that question. The Doctor tells Conrad that he dies alone and bitter at 49 in prison, but Conrad doesn't accept the Doctor's reality and tells the Doctor to get off his world. He does, and Mrs. Flood shows up to set Conrad free from jail. The end. Things that I liked. Boy, Ruby sure has a flair for the dramatic with this explanation of how the Shreek works. I liked this scene a lot. It was compelling, and I'm already struggling to find things that I really liked in this episode, so I'm mentioning it. But it did seem a bit odd that Ruby was trying to scare Conrad in this moment rather than just telling him to drink the dumb potion already. I know you get sleepy when you drink it, and maybe she's just trying to scare him into it, the way she lowers her voice and gets all creepy about it. The visual cues that you see are really just for us, but I was trying to put myself in Conrad's place as Ruby explains about the Shreek and thinking, just tell me the lights flicker when it's showing up, and if I don't want to die, drink the damn antidote. Conrad was a suitable asshole. I was caught off guard when he was revealed to be a dick. I may not have liked this episode as much as a lot of other people, but I did like the actor and I thought he did a great job. He really oozes, and like I said last time, when an actor is cast as the dickhead and you end up not liking him, good on you, mate. You did it. I was a little struck by the fact that both the Doctor and Ruby seemed to have a similar type, in appearance anyway. In Rogue's case, he was an asshole before he turned sweet, instead of vice versa. Things I didn't like. Now, I won't lie. I did like the brief scene with Ruby and the Doctor. They had great banter, and I always appreciated their chemistry and the way they are together. They always came off as good young friends who were out on an adventure together, but seeing them together again after Belinda makes me understand a bit about what was lacking between them. Having Ruby be as young and wide-eyed as she is with the Doctor lacked any kind of maturity. I think why Belinda resonates better for people like me is that we like seeing the Doctor have a deeper relationship with his companions than just wanting to figure out who their mom is. There isn't a lot of depth to Ruby and the Doctor's relationship, other than what happens in Boom and at the end of Rogue. Other than that, they're just two really good-looking people, dripping with charisma that run around having hijinks. Sure, Ruby wants to know who her birth mom is, but she's so well adjusted that learning who she is doesn't really change Ruby much. Rose number 1 worked because she wanted so desperately to have a relationship with her father that it ended up costing her a life with the Doctor. Until he gave her his clone. Martha gained some self-respect but ended up becoming a soldier, and we all know the sacrifices that Donna, Amy and Rory, and Clara went through. Hell, even Yaz's unrequited love had a bit of something to it, but Ruby, she sacrifices nothing, gets everything she wants, and I suppose has some PTSD, but it isn't like she came back from war or anything. I like Ruby, but I don't think her character added any depth. What the fuck with the logistics of this prank, man? I feel like there is a massive amount of financial backing here, and if so, cool. I'm all for making the think tank a thing again and really going for it and having some rival organization to go against Unit. And it is a nice nod to the past, but you need to do a little bit more than just some guys with a podcast or a stream. Because if Conrad is the head of this organization now, I kinda have a problem with it. Because we know full well that Conrad interviewed with Unit 8 years prior, so they should have known who he was whenever he started dating Ruby, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. But here's just a taste of what this guy has to do to pull this off. Create a podcast and get people to listen to it, but make it seem pro-unit and pro-doctor in order to fool Ruby before she goes on the thing. Have technology that can scramble lights, because we see him do it both with the car on the walk home from the first dinner and the bus station digital sign. I know it happens in the pub too, but I figured Conrad and crew could have set that up. Scrub all his information from unit since he once interviewed with them, and since he doesn't use a fake name, a simple Control F at unit on Ruby's new boyfriend should have brought him up, as it does later with Jamie. Get one of his buddies hired at unit as an analyst with enough security clearance to, I guess, scrub said information, dox everyone that works there, take pictures of the Shreek to perfectly recreate it, because the half second that Conrad saw it a full year ago isn't going to be close, and open the back door for him, all without getting caught by a typical IT sweep, security cameras, or the fucking Vlinks. Fool Ruby enough to get her to call unit and have them show up and not have his buddies full on shot dead when they slowly stand up and take off their masks, and have enough people that follow Conrad on his dumbass podcast for everyone to give a shit when this happens. This only gets pulled off with someone else as the real head of the think tank. But in the end, Flood releases Conrad like he's the leader of the organization rather than just showing up on the doorstep to some huge financial backer or the shadowy figurehead. So based upon what I know today, Conrad was able to pull this off because people pay him too much for his podcast and because of unit's incompetence. Also, what exactly were you proving with this little stunt? I know people lately aren't logical and will believe weird shit, but if I understand correctly, you lured this girl in that you knew was close to the doctor in unit, date her to get her to the area that you can safely get her to freak out, get her to call unit or maybe even the doctor if you're lucky, and then what? Live stream to the world that your buddies dressed up like aliens and pranked unit? How exactly does this prove that aliens and the Cybermen aren't real? Because assuming that you think that Ruby believes in this stuff enough to call unit, you believe that unit just fakes these alien stunts so they can spy on the people. So why exactly would you think that they would show up to this? This isn't exactly one of the fake alien attacks that they, according to you, set up. So if Ruby calls them and says, "Oh no, my boyfriend is being attacked by aliens," they are just gonna tell her to calm down, send a car around to pick her up, and drug her into oblivion for being a dum-dum. But I guess this is your lucky day because they do show up. And not just a normal group, but you got the head of unit to show up for an alien that we found out later that can just be tased. And as soon as they do, you pull off your mask to live stream to the world and say, "See, they faked it," and spy on us. How did you prove that they faked it? You showed the world that you faked it, wasted an ass ton of government money and resources, and put civilians at risk. And sure, I get that the public is gullible and politicians will go with the whims of whatever, but it seems very implausible to me that 80% of the general public wouldn't just see this as college-age kids pulling a prank and now need to pay a hefty restitution to the government. So Kate acted incredibly dumb in this episode. I appreciate that she's protecting Ruby, offended by the jab at her dad, and Conrad got on her last nerve, but letting the Shreek out of containment? Even if this thing is susceptible to tasing, I assume that she doesn't mind getting her ass fired, since this is not only being live streamed by Conrad, but she also uses all of Unit's cameras to simulcast to make for sure they get multiple angles, and I'm fairly certain that those that sign her paycheck are not going to be excited that she let a danger to the public out of containment and abetted in filming it. Maybe in a typical setting without a live stream camera strapped to his chest, you could sweep this little revenge dalliance under the rug, but this was incredibly risky, and the perp still got bit. And even though you gave him the forearm bracelet, if I'm him or his mom out in the south of France, I'm suing Unit into the ground. You gotta keep your emotions in check here, Kate. I get what you were going for, but I don't like how the doctor confronted Conrad. I got all excited because we were finally gonna get to see one of those patented doctor speeches, and we haven't seen Shooty do that yet. But this was just a lecture to a guy that wasn't going to change his mind anyway, so I'm unsure what the doctor was trying to accomplish with this. Dude is already in jail, so you popping in with the TARDIS so that you can verbally spank him with how he's just a noise that distracts from reality really doesn't go anywhere. Like, sure, I agree with the sentiment, but it seems like a waste of time. Okay, glad you made yourself feel better that you weren't there to help, Doctor, but you aren't exactly changing any minds with this approach, and your words feel like Peter McTingle's way to use your mouth to say what he wants to rather than just how the character would act. And sorry guys, this absolutely was no, I do what I do because it's right and decent and kind. Things I didn't understand. I don't understand. Did Ruby just see the photo of herself online and show up for the podcast? Because why didn't she do any research? Also, why is she doing a podcast about the Doctor? Look, I know the Doctor doesn't give much of a if anyone talks about him, but you would think that UNIT certainly would care. And considering what happened because she did just up and decide to do a podcast, spilling a lot of secrets about shit that should really be government classified, and ended up getting the whole of UNIT doxxed and potential funding loss, hopefully this will be a lesson to UNIT about keeping a close eye on any new lonely companions that the Doctor decides to take in that don't end up dying. Why isn't Ruby working for UNIT anyway? It feels like UNIT hires just about anyone that was in the general area of the Doctor's farts, so how is Ruby not under strict orders to keep her mouth shut about anything related to time travel, the Sutekh dusting that nobody even remembers, or even the circumstances surrounding her birth? Speaking of, I don't understand how UNIT doesn't have a full file on Conrad before Ruby steps into his podcast studio. I get that they have an inside man and all, but one spare analyst with a UNIT locker is able to outsmart the fucking Vlinks? That thing is hooked into the internet, and we see it do a deep scan later, and probably could have seen through the prank that the think tank figured out. Also, you guys don't have eyes on Ruby at all times? Aside from being a former companion, this bitch's mom is the reason everyone survived.
The Sutekh surprise.
And she personally leashed the god of death and helped kill the mother and father of the entire pantheon, and has been supernaturally linked to goblins since birth, and has Dina McCall's personal phone number. So I would figure you dipshits would have eyes on her 24/7 whether she wants detail or not. The way you knuckles bounce around like Keystone Cops has me thinking that the think tank wasn't that far off. Why the hell are you guys paying taxes for this when they can't even ensure the safety and government compliance of the girl that saved the entire universe simply because her mom decided to wear a hoodie on the night that she abandoned her daughter? And maybe the Doctor told them not to, but that. He isn't there, and even though he may or may not still be present on Earth when needed, he doesn't get to say that because his ass goes traipsing off, chasing his own timeline simply because Alex Jones over here told him to. He isn't exactly crushing a leadership role.
Nitpick Corner!
Wait, you guys have kids tour the building that seems to be under attack every single year? Not for nothing, guys, but it hasn't even been a full year since the dust of death that wiped everyone out for who knows how long originated from this building. I mean, I know everyone has a hazy memory of it and all, but you probably remember when the Cybermen and the Master exploded the last building that they had, so maybe just go ahead and cancel the school field trips to the UNIT building. What the fuck, the Vlinks? What the hell is this bitch move? Are you scared of the Shreek? How? This fucking thing gets taken down by tasers and you aren't even organic enough to get marked by it, and you have fucking laser eyes. Just every time you're on my TV screen, you do something that fucking drives me crazy. You probably see her more than you see your own grandmother at this point. It's the is Flood. So we knew going in that for most of this episode, Shooty would be absent due to his obligations on the last season of Sex Education. Coupled with the notion that Mrs. Flood was the season mystery arc this year, I was kind of hoping that this would be the episode that focused a bit on her before the finale. I see everyone's getting all excited because she called herself the governor, but I took that to mean that she was giving Conrad a stay of execution. Still, this little cameo was really interesting and pretty much confirms that she's not on the Doctor's side and sets up Conrad's return engagement so that we can all delight in his inevitable death. So, I liked the idea of this episode. I liked what they ultimately were trying to do and say, and I absolutely hope that they're setting up a rival organization for UNIT in Think Tank, and I like that they're shining a light on subjects like how easily someone can spread disinformation. But the blunt force trauma my head got from the clubbing was just too damn hard. This is one of those beat you over the head with a point episode that forsakes all the characterization and growth that these characters have made and makes them into weird hybrids of themselves just so that the writer can make his point. But I don't think this one really carried the weight that it thought it did and didn't say more than people like this equal bad. I give this episode a 4. I actually liked it better the second time I watched it, but it still really didn't land. Hopefully another writer can make Conrad into something more fun, like, say, Krychek from X-Files or something. Hey, don't forget to follow me on all the social media, like and subscribe and comment, and as always, life is like a box of salty ham. You never know what you're gonna get. Just tell me that the lights flicker when it shows up, and if I don't want to drive, bitch, just tell me the lights flicker when it shows up, bitch, just tell me the light. Bitch.